Hi, this is John Musgrave for Music Radar, and in this video we're taking a look at Pendulate from Newfangled Audio. There are some very capable free synth plugins out there. Nevertheless, they do tend to follow pretty common synthesis methods. This time around we have something considerably more interesting. Pendulate is a chaotic monosynth that offers a refreshingly different set of sounds. Designed by developer Newfangled Audio and based on aspects of their pay-for synth Generate, Pendulate is heavily influenced by the synthesis ideas of Don Buchla and the so-called West Coast synthesis scene. In particular, the interconnection between the oscillators, where one modulates the other. Further Buchla-influenced aspects include a low-pass gate and also wave shaping using a wave folder. It combines these ideas with its very own chaotic oscillator design, which is based on the physics of a double pendulum, and this results in real-time changes in the oscillator section that are chaotic but not random. Despite its slightly left-field fundamentals, Pendulate's layout is straightforward and pretty easy to understand. There's also extensive use of graphic visualizations, which certainly helps confirm what you're hearing. Let's take a look at the various components. Sound generation and shaping occupies the top half of the plugin, and the three sections are double pendulum, wave folder, and low pass gate. The first includes the main double pendulum based oscillator and two sub-oscillators. The double pendulum combines a sine wave oscillator and chaotic generator. The balance between these two is set with the chaos amount, and the shape of the chaotic generator is set using the chaos shape. These two controls wield considerable power, but only once you introduce some differences between the sine wave oscillator and chaotic generator. You do this using animate, which detunes the chaotic generator from the sine wave, and by using interval, which sets the relative musical interval between the sine wave and the chaotic generator. To test this, try setting a basic 1-octave interval and tweak the chaos amount and chaos shape. Further controls in this section include a sync option for the sine wave and chaotic generator, and two controls to set the sub 1 and sub 2 oscillator levels. The wave folder section shapes the resulting wave by folding it back on itself, and is loosely based on the wave folder in the Buchla 259 complex oscillator. This additive process generates additional harmonics. The amount of harmonics is determined by the folds parameter, and the type of harmonics by the symmetry parameter. The low-pass gate combines VCA and low-pass filter. Once again, this is based on a Buchla design. Options include cutoff frequency and resonance, meanwhile the poles parameter shifts the filter slope between a gentle 1-pole option and a resonant 3-pole option. Gate settings are controlled by an ADSR envelope. In the lower half of the plugin window you'll find the modulator section. Pendulate uses a patch cable style system to connect these to target parameters, and in the settings page you can make these cables always visible, which can be quite handy when working out what's going on in a preset. From an operational perspective, there are two ways you can set up a modulator. Firstly, clicking the node above a modulator reveals the available target parameters, and then you can select these and set depth with the localized dial. Alternatively, clicking the plus icon next to a target parameter reveals all available source modulators, and this provides a quick way to set up multiple modulators with a single target parameter. In the modulators section, you have the global options on the left, then the ADSR in the center, and LFO to the right. The global section includes typical core settings such as portamento and pitch bend, and just above these are 5 global modulator outputs: velocity, mod wheel, key track, pressure, and timbre. The first 3 are pretty self-explanatory. Pressure meanwhile is aftertouch, but this can also be polyphonic, with a suitable MPE controller and MPE enabled. Finally, by default timbre is MIDI CC number 74, which is usually mapped on an MPE controller. However, you can change this to any MIDI CC number in the settings page. At first glance, the ADSR looks pretty standard, but on closer inspection it actually produces 3 simultaneous outputs: ADSR, AD and ASR. Couple this with the looping option, which allows you to use the envelope more like an LFO, and you have a surprisingly flexible envelope. Pendulate includes a single tempo syncable LFO with unipolar and bipolar options. Much like the envelope, this also features simultaneous outputs, with 5 available shapes. There's also a global output level, and this is available as a modulation target parameter, thus allowing collective control of all LFO targets. Finally, typical housekeeping tasks including preset library access, A/B compare, undo redo, parameter randomize, MPE mode, and settings are found in the top navigation bar. In the settings page you can also make further changes to what's visible, including removing all controls so you can only see the visualizations, which can be a nice option. Pendulate's monosynth design makes it good for certain tasks such as basses, leads and effects. Let's start by building a simple bass sound. Load up a fresh instance and you should have the factory default preset. First thing to do is remove any modulation patch cables by clicking on the target parameters. We've also zeroed both sub-oscillator levels and set the low pass gate frequency to its maximum, which is 20 kHz. Turning to the double pendulum, the first thing to do is set the interval. We've set this to octave. Next up, set the shape and chaos parameters to taste. To add some movement, we've also increased the animate parameter. Now is a good point to add the sub-oscillator back in, and here we've used just the -1 octave option. This basic sound is solid, but lacks character, so we turn to the wave folder settings. By increasing the folds and adjusting the cutoff, you get a nice balance of harmonics. Now finesse this using the symmetry control. Next up, use the low pass gate to set the main filter and envelope. For the filter we've increased the resonance and poles to 4 and 3 respectively, reducing the frequency to about 2 kHz. Meanwhile, set the ADSR to quite short values for a more plucky sound. Finally, heading to the global section, we've turned off legato and set portamento to always on with a medium speed of about 125. For added width, we've activated the stereo output. And that's our basic bass sound, which we can save using the button in the navigation bar. Now let's take a look at the presets. Pendulate has a very capable library of over 200 presets, and with the library open, selecting the filters option reveals the relevant categories and corresponding number of presets. There are plenty of solid basses, such as simple bass and triple bass, but it's the character bass sounds that really shine, such as power acid or Aphex Sequence Arpegg 4. The same concept follows through into the leads category, where more regular sounds, such as instant Autechre for example, are upstaged by more upfront presets, such as Phantom Leadus and the very edgy broken organ. This isn't surprising given Pendulate's core sound generation, which really lends itself to creative rather than functional sounds. Indeed, some of its best sounds can be found in the texture, rhythmic and FX categories. Check out the textures Spacelings, and Chaos to Order. Meanwhile, for more rhythmic sounds, check out Back and Forth, and for effects, Unstable Connection. If you fancy expanding your presets with some third-party extras, you can import them individually or simply by adding folders, which Pendulate will add to its banks category when you select the rescan option. Finally, as mentioned, Pendulate uses elements of its paid-for sibling Generate, and this, along with other newfangled plugins, can be found at newfangledaudio.com.